Is that even in frame? There we go.
Sweet. Jordan, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. We're going to get into origin stories. We're talking about what makes you tick. We're going to talk about how great you are
Hmm.
on and off the mic. But before we do there, I want to start this conversation off with a quote from a blog that you posted in October. Quote, here's the truth about people who don't communicate well. They're not too busy to respond. They just don't care enough to respond. When you ignore an email, you're not just dodging an obligation, you're also communicating, intentionally or not, what kind of person you are, how you treat people, and what you care about. End quote. Oh, I think this point of view is going to set the foundation for our conversation today. Can
Cool.
we just start off hitting the ground running? Can you elaborate on why communication is important to you?
Yeah, so that piece I believe was my piece about email, about how
Mm,
there's all these people that they're drowning in email and they say like, "Oh, I'm so busy, I couldn't respond," and or they say this is just not a priority and they delete things. And I started to realize, on the Jordan Harbinger show, right? I'll have like Ray Dalio or like Mark Cuban or some billionaire person on, and I'm like, this guy, he answers his email same day, next day,
amen.
and then I'll write to some crazy powerful online person who's got like multiple companies running. They reply to your email in 30 hours, whatever it is, 36 hours. And I'm like, what's going on here where when I email like a LinkedIn consultant who's 25 and begged for business a week ago, I can't get a reply. But when I email somebody who's like the largest hedge fund manager in the world, I get a reply within 24 hours. What's happening here?
Oh, Jordan's spilling tea.
Yeah.
Okay, I love this already. Okay.
So like that to me kind of it was a little irritating in the beginning, and then I was like, what's going on here? I started to think about it, and I realized the most successful people, they have really good systems in place. So they also know that they have to prioritize their communication. And a lot of people who are overwhelmed and don't really know what's going on, they deprioritize their communication. So I'll meet people who are in startup mode and they'll be ignoring their email and they're like, I just couldn't get to all my email. And I go, you're a sales organization. No, 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 we're an app. You have to sell your idea. You have to sell me on your idea. Well, we don't need funding yet. I'll reach out later. I'm not going to be here later when you are ready. I want to get in now. I want to find out what you're doing now. I want to get you in front of the right people now. And what that says to me is not only do you not understand that this is not all about you, but you don't understand, which a lot of people don't, but you don't understand that you're even in the right, like what industry you're in. You think you're making an app for parking in big cities. You are selling the idea that parking in big cities can be changed. And I think about that when companies ask me to become an advisor or anything like that. And it worries me. It's a major red flag. And I asked Mark Cuban about this too. I said, what do you think of people who just like, they keep missing emails? And he goes, oh, immediately I'm not, I don't want to deal with it. I'm not into it. Because there's a time to keep your head down and get work done, but there's never a time to not communicate with people, to leave people hanging, to decide that they're not worth your time because you don't need something from them right now. Like that's just such a massive red flag for anybody working with anyone else. You don't want to inadvertently communicate that by kind of pretending that you're too busy to answer your email. And that's really what it is. When it comes down to it, you see these people with like 23,000 unread emails in their inbox, and all I see is a massive disaster that doesn't ever get anything done. That's what I
Oh,
see.
okay. So, y'all, like shots fired, bam,
Mhm.
bam. Jordan's out here really spilling it. And I want to make sure that we take a step back. And the show isn't about email. Like, what is the undercurrent of like Jordan is like known for and like stands by
Mhm.
is communication. And communication, not just via email, but we can also tap in like what it means about social, and we'll get there in a second. But it's like human to human connection, right? Because we're all people on the other side of our screens. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, Jordan's podcast is quite popular. I'm just a little bit behind his, but he gets 6 million downloads per month. When we're speaking about communication, what role does your core value, powerful communication, like what does that play? How does it play into you're talking about email? Like, how do we parlay that now into something like a medium like podcasting?
Sure. So think about it from any task. This permeates pretty much any task, right? When I'm talking about communicating with other people, if I have to pitch a guest for the Jordan Harbinger show, I've got to network with the right people. I've got to communicate in a way that makes them, I won't say like me, but at least have an
Right.
affinity to help me, right? If I'm trying to
Right.
book somebody and I'm talking to their publicist, you ever heard that sort of dating advice where they say never date anyone that's rude to the waiter.
Ooh,
You ever heard that?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking whenever I'm communicating with anybody. Like, yes, I'm communicating with the assistant publicist of some famous super ultra celebrity, whatever. But does that mean that they are beneath respect? They're beneath me?
Right.
Like, no, you want them to
Right.
be advocating for you internally. So you want them to think like, this Jordan guy, he's pretty cool. Because if it comes down to it, it might be, well, I'm going out to lunch. I have the email from one of the guys on my phone right now, but I kind of like that Jordan guy better. All right, close, scroll, search Jordan.
Mm.
All right, I'm forwarding that one to be the last one in line to get booked today or at all. And you find that happens a lot. Like there'll be times where I meet someone in real life during doing a show and they'll say, hey, I'm so and so, I helped you book this interview, and I'm like, oh, thanks so much. And she'll say something like, yeah, it's funny, right after you I got an email from Newsweek and I just said like, oh, sorry, the schedule is full, so you got in right under the wire. And I'm like, did I really, or did you just delete the Newsweek email and put me in there because we're cool and I spent 5 minutes to be nice to you, and nobody, everyone else treats you like you're a freaking doorman, like
Ooh.
and that happens a lot. You'd be surprised. There are people that will talk. My wife is my assistant, right? So whatever you want to call it, my admin. She's really like the chief operating officer of the whole company. But she's, if we're not going to romanticize it, she's an assistant that books things. And sometimes she'll be like, hey, Jordan, this guy is kind of being a jerk in email. He's like really curt and, doesn't seem to feel like, and
That's
I'll look
right.
at the email and I'll go, this guy really thinks you're like a virtual assistant
That's
in the
right.
Philippines or something. So he just doesn't care enough to be nice to you. And I'm never booking with this guy. Not because, oh, wow, you were mean to my wife, but because this is the real you. You're really just kind of a prick. And like you're gonna put on a nice veneer for me when I meet you so that I think you're cool, but everybody else can go fly a kite. And I don't want to be friends with that person. I don't want to
Ooh.
be associated with that person. I'll tell you why. Not just because bad people are bad to be around. That's a given. We probably don't have to explain that. But here's the thing. If you are friends with somebody and they treat other people like crap and you don't see it, you're the one that looks bad, right? Like
Mm.
you're the one that looks bad because it's guilt by association. If I'm friends with you and then you meet another friend of mine and he treats you like crap and tries to be all grabby or something, you're going to be like, wow, hey, Jordan, that guy, he did something inappropriate. Or you're going to go, huh, maybe Jordan is like not as cool as I thought he
Yep.
was because he's friends with that guy and they seem pretty tight. And
Exactly.
that's a guy who tried to get all touchy feely on me, like in the elevator. That's not a good person. And it doesn't even have to rise to that level of egregiousness. It can be like, that's the guy who was really rude to my assistant. And then it still
Facts.
makes me look bad. So you have to know what you're getting into because when you keep people around you, you are guilty by association. And so you really don't want to let people like that into your circle. You don't want to be duped by people like that. And it happens all the time. So you have to be really careful about everybody that's around you. And you got to be careful about the way you communicate because you never get that second chance to make that first impression, as the old cliche goes. So like if I say something that can be treated as off color, I might just get blacklisted from that PR firm, or that person might go, you know what, I'm in a bad mood already. I'm not going to answer any of your emails now.
Okay, so you seem like a powerful, I mean, you are a powerful communicator. You have like these irresistible ways to like get in. Now, you've also been somebody who is actively pursuing a connection, and then you've also been actively on the receiving end of a connection. What are like some things that we can do as business owners? Like what resonates, what pops off? What are a few lessons? What are things that we should be aware of when it comes to communicating when we're in pursuit of a relationship or a connection?
Yeah, so I always say this: dig the well before you're thirsty, right? This is like not something I made up. I was gonna say cliche, but I guess I'll say
A
maxim because
proverb?
that sounds nicer.
Okay.
Proverb, yeah,
Okay.
proverb. Dig the well before you're thirsty, and that's a book title that's from like a book in the '90s from some life coach or whatever. Who knows? It doesn't matter. But the point is, a lot of people will reach out to me. Here's a real example. I won't mention the person's name, obviously, but there's a person that reaches out to me every year or year and a half, and every email goes like this. It goes, Jordan, what's up, man? Oh my God, so crazy. I can't believe I didn't see this, replying to my previous email from 18 months ago. Or like, oh man, I haven't talked to you in forever. And then the next line is, I'm getting ready to do a transition from my current position to something else. I'm looking for something, da da da. And I'm like, not only are you changing jobs every 18 months, let's put that red flag aside. You only reach out to me when you need something from me, like a job or a connection. You're never reaching out to offer anything. Of course, at the end of those emails, he's like, let me know if I can help with anything. And I'm just like, dude, you don't even mean that. You're just saying that because you're asking me for something and you want me to feel like you care. And that is not digging the well before you get thirsty. And there are a lot of examples of this. It's not just people who reach out and ask for something when they need something. There's a lot of folks that will not even think about you until they need something. And those people can ignore communication like this guy was doing. You know, they're not even replying. What they're basically saying through their actions is, you're not even worth a reciprocal text message, one-line email that says, I'm slammed right now, talk to you soon, or like, hope, congrats on the baby, or whatever. You're not even worth that, because I'm so self-absorbed in my own ish that I can't even get out of my own way to maintain connections with other people, and or my connections with other people are a massive, completely deprioritized, such that I don't even feel the ability to keep up with them. Now, what do I want? Do I want to choose that you don't have the ability to keep in touch with people because you're dysfunctional, or that you just don't care enough about other people to keep in touch? Like, which one of those options do I choose for you? Neither of them are good, and you don't want people to make that decision about you. I also see a lot of folks that are doing like a book launch or something like that, or they've got their skincare line is coming out, and they'll say like, Jordan, what's going on? Oh man, I've caught the latest episode of your show. Like, they'll just pick the thing that's on the top of the website that day, and they're like, so interesting, totally gonna listen later. Anyway, my skincare line's coming out, and I was wondering if I could, and I'm like, delete. Well, I reply, but you know, I want to hit delete. I always reply, but I will hit delete after that anyway. It's not as powerful. But those people, I know what they're doing, right? They are simply saying, what their sub communication is, oh, shoot, I didn't really lay the groundwork here. I know I didn't. I'm coming to you tail between my legs. I really need help because I got my book or my skincare line or my movie or whatever it is coming out. Throw me a solid, oh, but I'll download your latest thingamajig, I guess, that you care about to pay token lip service to the thing that's your life's work. Anyway, let me know if I can send you a box of cream, you know? And I'm just like, no. Like, the reason that reaching out to people for a lot of folks is awkward is because you know you screwed up by not digging the well before you get thirsty. Yes, it's awkward if I reach out to you out of nowhere and ask you for something and never communicate, never reach out, never offer you anything in the meantime. Of course that's awkward, because you know better. Because people do know better. They just don't have systems in place. They don't have the habit lined up that keeps them communicating with other people. That's the reason.
So let's get like super granular. Like, I want you to explain this to me like I'm 5. Can you give me an example, like 1 or 2 examples of somebody digging the well for you in a way that you found was impressive and authentic? And then a way, like two ways that you've dug wells into somebody else before being thirsty.
Yeah, definitely. So the way that people dig wells that is great, I would say, is I'll get some example. Here's a real example. Somebody writes me and goes, hey, I noticed that you never email anyone from your website, unless I just haven't found the place where it is. And I go, nah, I don't really email people. I just have the Jordan Harbinger show and people listen to it and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, well, is it because you don't want to write emails, or is there another reason? I go, yeah, honestly, I just don't want to dedicate myself to email marketing. I don't really prioritize email marketing. And he goes, let me take a stab at a newsletter and just see what you think. And I'm like, okay, I'm not really on the market for it. And he's like, no, I just want to see if I can write in your voice, and then you can tell me if it looks like it might even be useful.
This is so good.
And I'm like, cool, whatever. Like, don't spend too much time on it, right? He sends me like 3 options. He probably wrote them in 20 minutes because he's a copywriter. And he's like, look, I've listened to the show for a while. This might not be your exact voice, but like, here's what I'm thinking. Tell me, do you like this part, and this part? Like, he like labeled them A, B, C. He's like, of those parts, do you prefer this type of intro, this type of intro, and this type of intro, or whatever it was? And I was like, yes, A, B, no, rather the other one, C is good here, thanks, bye. That's like my reply. That's all he required. And then he goes, okay, Not trying to weasel my way in, but I would love to write email for you if you ever decide to prioritize it. And what we can do is figure out this, and I will do these, and I will do 5 a week or a month, and we'll do it at this price. And let me know if that makes sense. And I can promise you're going to make more doing that. And here's what you're going to make if you don't, and which is like 0 because you're not doing anything. And he's like, here's what you make if you do at a product that has a price point of this. And I was like, can I afford to not hire this person to generate that revenue for me? And it's called the briefcase technique because basically he's like sitting down at an interview, popping open his briefcase and being like, here's all this crap that I made for you without you even really asking me for it, that solves a problem that I found on your website without you telling me about it. And so the worst kind of, not the worst, a bad kind of networking is, hey, Jasmine, what can I help you with? And you're like, bro, who are you? I don't know you. What are you good at? Why would I tell you? What am I going to outline my whole business for you? And then you're going to tell me something based on what? Like, I don't know anything. But if I go, hey, Jasmine, I noticed that when you do your this isn't a real example, but what if I'm like, hey, when you do your podcast, there's some reverb going on. You should use some acoustic panels. Here's the acoustic panel that I recommend you get. It's $75. If you click here, there's a 5% off coupon with free shipping. I would put it on that wall to your left and that wall to the front of you. And then you're like, click buy.
Exactly.
Thanks, Jordan. You're an awesome dude.
Exactly.
Right? That's the briefcase technique in action. Most people will say, they'll just go, what can I do for you? And I'm like, bro, I don't have time to even go down this thread of conversation with you. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, but tell me, what have you done for other people? I'm fascinated with this.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this. I'm interested though, because I'm creepy and very, very.
No,
very,
I'm with you. I'm with you. The way I do this is I have a whole course on networking that's like free that I just give away, and I won't plug it yet because it's tacky to do that without permission. But we can. Well, do it
you have
later
my permission. Plug it now, and then we'll plug it later because I actually made a mention. Are you going to be mentioning like the 6-minute
6-minute networking? Yeah.
Talk to me like come at me, bro. Okay. I already did the homework. Okay, plug it now, and we'll plug it later.
Cool. All right. So 6-minute networking, jordanharbinger.com/course is where it is. It's free. There's no upsells. Honestly, like there's nothing. I don't make any money from it. The reason I give it away is because the more people that implement this stuff, they think that I am super smart and then they want to listen to me. So that's the rub. That is the whole transparent equation.
I love it.
But for real, what's in there are a bunch of drills. And one of the first drills is it's called Connect 4. And what I do is every day, around like coffee o'clock or whatever, or like late breakfast time, I go on my phone, I open my text message app, I scroll all the way to the bottom of the text messaging threads. So like those threads that's like somebody you had lunch with at Cafe Gratitude in San Diego like 3 years ago and you never kept in touch. You know what I'm saying? Oddly specific, I know, but like for real. But like for real, that's like a real example. And I put in there, I go, hey, Brad, been a really long time since we sat down at that breakfast at Cafe Gratitude during FinCon or whatever conference while I was down there in 2017. What's going on? Last we talked, you were opening up a green juice business. By the way, I had a kid. Here's a photo. Let me know what's new with you, Jordan Harbinger. So I'm using his name so he's not like, who does this person know me? Because, you know, those mass texts are always like, hi, friend.
Yes.
Like, friend? Like, who? No one calls me that. I don't have any friends. Who are you? And then you use your own name because otherwise they're like, Sam, are you a man or a woman? Like Samantha, what are we talking about here? So you use your first name and last name and you tell them where you met, because if they're like, Jordan Harbinger, where have I heard that? Where have I heard that?
Good.
And then you're like, oh, Cafe Gratitude during FinCon 2017. Okay, I definitely went. That's right. I had lunch with 3 guys. That must be the guy whose name I forgot. Cool. So you don't, because if you don't use their name and your name and where you met, you're gonna get either new phone who dis, or you're gonna get ignored because they're gonna go, ooh, it's embarrassing if I say who is this again, so I can just ignore it because the stakes are really low for them to just pretend like they never saw it, right? So you use the variation of that script and you do something that compels a response. Like, what's new with you? My news is I had a kid. Who can resist and be like, oh, that is a cute kid?
You do have a cute kid though. Come on. Come on. That baby is real cute. You could send that photo to anybody and you're going to get a response. Just facts.
Pro tip, have a cute ass kid also, and it will increase your response rate. That part is optional.
That better be part of the freebie.
Kid not included, child not included. But like, I highly recommend having a super cute baby at any time.
I
for
love,
networking purposes.
love this. I'm going to do that. And I have to say that just this morning, I got a very random email from an acquaintance from 2 years ago. And I didn't even know that this was actually happening. But when I received it just this morning, hand to heaven facts, I was like, this is really nice.
Mhm,
It felt as a testament to who he was as a human outside of his like business negotiations. And at some point, maybe he wants to work together in the future. I was
mhm.
just like, I see you and I acknowledge it. Okay.
Yeah,
Speaking of communication, your very powerful techniques in communication. Now, specifically, this audience mostly hustlers, gritty dreamers, entrepreneurs.
mhm.
So I really loved the tornado technique. If you can you explain that versus
Sure.
how it's different from an elevator pitch? Now, making sure we're all on the same page. Elevator pitch. I'm riding an elevator with Jordan, and I want to pitch him what I do. This is what social curator does. This is what I'm looking for. And Jordan has a different technique that we're going to share and talk about why it's better.
So the tornado technique is this is a way to tell people what you do that is not like you said, the elevator pitch. And the reason that this is important is because what most people will do is say like, oh, hey, what do you do? Oh, well, I run a 6-figure internet commerce, e-commerce business, and I've got multiple lines of makeup, and I've also got green juice, and I've got, and then people are like, oh, and so then if I ask you what that person does that you just heard the elevator pitch for, there's a chance you're going to go, green juice or I don't
It's
wait,
true.
was it green juice or makeup or was it both? I don't remember. So you want to do something, you want to explain what you do in a way that stands the game, that withstands the game of telephone, essentially.
Mm,
And so what that would be if you're like an IT, let's say you do reinsurance, right? What is that? I don't know. Kind of doesn't really matter. Okay. But if I tell you that and you don't know what that is and you're not in that industry, if someone says, "What does Jordan do?" You go, something with insurance. I think he sells insurance." And then they go, "Oh, okay." And then someone else goes, "Oh yeah, what does that guy Jordan do?" "Oh, he sells life insurance or something." And then someone else goes, "Oh, life insurance." Or was it car insurance? "Oh, well, if he sells car insurance." Meanwhile, I don't even do that. I do like corporate reinsurance. It's nothing to do with insurance that you buy, right? But the whole chain is broken. And the reason that that's important is because I can't get referrals from you or anybody who heard that if nobody actually has a clue about what I do. And referrals are super important in especially these solopreneur businesses, these hustler businesses where you've got a product line or you're a coaching of something like that. You have to be able to get referrals. That's like how you're going to get the bulk of your business, especially in the beginning until you master like scaling and digital advertising or whatever, right? So you have to be really careful about that. So what we do with the tornado technique is you explain it in a way that is so easy to digest and free of jargon that it doesn't really matter exactly what it is that you do in terms of title. So if it's reinsurance, you might say, "Oh, you know what I do is I make sure that big companies who do business overseas that their company branches overseas don't do anything that's illegal in the United States." And then people are like, "Oh, okay. You make sure that like Starbucks Vietnam doesn't break any US laws." Exactly. So then if they tell that to someone else, they explain that anecdote, that person will probably go, "Oh, so that's interesting. Reinsurance, or maybe some kind of corporate counsel. That guy is in my sphere." Or they'll go, "Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to me and it doesn't matter." That's
mm,
fine because you're looking for people who kind of recognize it. Like you don't want to say like, "Oh, I'm an IT specialist with a focus on mainframe computing for enterprise level, blah blah blah." Then people are like, "I don't know, he's a computer guy, IT support, can't remember." But if you tell people what you're looking for, and that's the reverse tornado, where you say like, I help fix the biggest computers that Amazon has that run the whole internet. Then if I tell that to somebody else, they go, and they're in IT, they go, "Oh, it sounds like a mainframe, internet infrastructure guy." So they will get it. It's like a whistle that only the people in your sphere can really hear, but that everyone else can make that sound for you. So if I tell you what I'm looking for, "Hey, I'm looking for a job, and I'm looking for international corporate law focusing on all these different things," you're going to be like, "I don't know, he's a lawyer or something." But if I say, "I'm looking for a job as senior counsel in a large multinational company like Starbucks, then it's like, oh, he wants a job as a lawyer at Starbucks. And then it's like, oh, I know somebody in Starbucks corporate. It's different and it's nuanced. And we lay that out in 6-minute networking so that you can follow it step by step. But it's very different because when most people tell their job title, their idea is make myself sound impressive. You don't actually want to do that. You want to make yourself sound as digestible and understandable as possible, because that's how your job title and what you do withstands the game of telephone that most people are going to have when they're telling other people about you. Or if it's complicated enough, they're just going to be like, I don't know, and they're never going to tell anyone about you. That's terrible. It's better if you're somebody who sells skincare products, it's better that somebody says, I don't know, but he sells moisturizers. It's better than I have no idea what that guy does or what that woman does. You don't want that.
Okay. On this note, what is your tornado technique?
I literally just say, I interview brilliant people and I make their wisdom available to everyone. Or if they're in anywhere near, or I might start with, depends how much time I have. I might start with, do you know what a podcast is? Oh, yeah, of course. I'm a podcast interviewer. Done. Everyone who knows what a podcast is knows what that is. But if it's like my mom's friends, I don't say like, hey, do you know what a podcast is? And they're like, no. And then they feel dumb and then they're not listening, right? I just say I interview people like a journalist, or I try and pick someone who's really well known in a field that they would understand. I'll go, hey, do you know Larry King? Because he's from like, the 70s or something. And they'll be like, yeah, I love Larry King. Is he still on? I'm like, believe it or not, he is. I do that, except for I'm 50 years younger,
So how did you get into this? How did you get into this? What's your origin story?
So I used to be an attorney, and I technically still am. And I went to Wall Street and I was like, this is really cool. Like I am enjoying this, but I'm also terrified that I'm going to get fired. And I'd made it through high school by kind of figuring out things as I went along. Like, oh, crap, we have a test today. Let me figure out geometry during lunch and like take the test. And I did okay. Not great, right? But I did okay. Get into college. Everyone's smart. I'm like, oh crap, I'm never going to be able to make it out of school here. And then I just didn't drink 5 nights a week, but studied a lot. So instead of relying on natural smarts, so to speak, I just ramped up my work ethic. That got me through college and law school. And then when I got to Wall Street, I was like, oh, everyone's smart and everyone works hard. I'm totally going to get fired. Classic imposter syndrome. Like, I'm the guy that slipped through the cracks and doesn't belong here. That was me. So I was looking for a competitive advantage, because my competitive advantages had both been wiped out, right? The smarts and the smarter than other people, which is probably never true, and the working harder than other people, which was no longer true. So I wanted to find another competitive advantage that I could lean on. And that was actually not that hard to find, because I asked one of the partners, how did you become a partner so young? And he said, oh, I bring in a lot of business for the firm, and that's why I'm never in the office. And I was like, okay, you bring in business for the firm, that's why you're never in the office. I kind of like that idea. How do I do that? And of course, you ask somebody who's good at that for advice, and they're like, just be cool, man, just like bring in your friends from law school and like have them throw you business. And I was like, dude, if I could just be cool, you think I'd have become a lawyer in the first place? And no, I'd be pulling a David Duchovny and I'd be an actor and shit. Come on. Like, just be cool is not something you tell somebody who spent 16-hour days in a freaking library reading law books, man. Like, none of us are going to be able to apply this advice. So I started studying psychology and sales and verbal and nonverbal communication and persuasion and influence, because I was like, I need to learn how to sell my law firm to people and network. So I studied like networking and sales and persuasion. And then as I started teaching that to other people, it started to become more like a dating kind of thing, because first of all, nobody cared about networking in law school except for these 4 or sometimes 5 women, one of whom was like a conservative Muslim girl who had a hijab on, and she was kind of like, okay, I'm not really that outgoing, especially not here among a bunch of dudes. I'm going to go work in the legal realm, which is like this old boys club. So it was all women, and the doors were locked in the law school all the time where we were supposed to teach the class, where I was supposed to teach this little course. And it was hot as hell in there in Michigan in the summer. So we started meeting at a bar. And we would have drinks. Obviously, Heba would not drink. She always had those mocktails or whatever. But I would start breaking down body language of people who were around and be like, you can do this, you can look at that, you can look for these cues. And then they were like, wait a minute, what about that couple over there? What about that couple over there? So it kind of turned into a game. And then they were like, screw networking, let's just talk about dating and relationships. So we started talking about that. They brought more of their female friends, and then guys started to go, hey dude, why are you here with 11 women every Thursday and Tuesday and Friday? Like, who are you? And I'm like, all right, I'm teaching this class. It's sort of a dating thing, but whatever. And then they were like, okay, I want to join and like hang out with all these attractive women that you keep hanging out with. So I started to sort of informally teach these courses at bars around Ann Arbor. And then I realized that a lot of times, let's say I go on Tuesday, I do give a talk, break down a bunch of stuff, teach a bunch of stuff. Then Thursday, there'd be 2 new guys there. And I'm like, ugh, this is frustrating. I gotta repeat myself. So what I started doing was burning the conversations to CD. And then I'd give the CDs to the new people and I'd be like, listen to this. Then you can ask questions. It'll get you caught up. I had like 5 hours of conversation on these CDs. Then people stopped giving me the CDs back. And I'd be like, what are you doing? And they're like, yeah, I gave it to my roommate. It's so cool. And I was like, all right, now these are $5. Cause like WTF, man, it's like 40 minutes of my life to burn a CD and like $3. I'm not trying to give these away. So I charged for them, and then people be like, $5? Okay, I need 9 because I need one for my cousin John, one for my cousin Bob, one for my roommate, one for my other housemate, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get rich selling CDs for $5 and later $20. So I was like, I'm charging for my classes now, and I'm going to use these audio things as a lead generator. And I was like, if I could figure out how to get these MP3 files online instead of on CDs, I wouldn't have to carry CDs in my stupid pocket. I wouldn't have to mail CDs to people and then be like, can you mail $5 in an envelope to me? Because I was doing that too. Because people are like, my cousin in New Jersey needs one, you know? I was like, okay. So then my friend goes, there's this brand new thing called podcasting. This is like 2006. Brand new thing called podcasting. You can put these files up online and then people can download them in iTunes. And I go, all right, I'm going to download or upload these files to iTunes. So I put them in iTunes and I think, okay, a couple guys in New Jersey, whatever, a couple people in Michigan, Ann Arbor are going to download this. We looked at our stats after like a couple weeks, people from Africa downloading it, Germany, Latin America, Canada. And I'm like, who are these people? How are you finding me? So I did a little shout out on the next like episode. We didn't call it that then. We were just like the next MP3 file, right, of the show, which wasn't a show at that time. And then I was like, who are you? You know, who are these people? If you're listening in South Africa, like, what's your deal? If you're listening in Toronto, who are you? Like, who are these random people? And they're like, yeah, we found you in iTunes, you know, and then other people were like, yeah, my friend told me this. And then like someone goes to school with you. I don't even know who it is. So the word started to spread. And then it was like, we had 24 downloads one week. And then it was like 850 downloads another week. And then I remember looking at it a few months in, and we had gotten a message from our server, GoDaddy, that we were like out of bandwidth. And I was like, hey, I'm calling them. I'm like, this is impossible. You'd have to download like 10,000 files. This had to be downloaded 10,000 times. Like, is it an error? Did somebody like download our stuff 10,000 times? Like, could you reset it? And they're like, no, you have people downloading these files from all over the world. You need to upgrade your plan. And I'm like, we have a real thing here. And so I started to get emails from people that were like, can you coach me? And I'm like, sure, come over to Ashley's. And they're like, bro, I live in Denmark. You know, I live in Denmark. I can't go to Ashley's Grill. Like, I don't even know what that is. So I started doing phone coaching on Skype for like $50 an hour, then $100 an hour. And then one of my clients, who was an investment banker or a mortgage banker. And at the time,
this is still around body language and dating?
Yeah, and then some of the guys were like, I want some sales stuff. I was like, cool. Okay. You know, I want to apply this to my job as a whatever. I was like, cool. So then I start coaching, and one of my clients who's a mortgage banker. He owned a mortgage bank like in 2007, 2008, whatever it was. He goes, hey, can I put you on retainer like a lawyer? And I was like, yeah, sure. What do you have in mind? He's like, I'm going to give you $2,000 for like 10 hours of your time. And I'm going to re-up it every month because I'm going to use it all. And you should track it, and you should raise your prices, but not for me because I'm telling you to raise your prices. You could raise them for everybody else. You should be charging like way more. And I go, I don't know. I'm not really a coach or anything. Again, like more imposter syndrome. I was like, and I'm not really a coach. And he goes, well, let me stop you right there. He goes, I've hired sales trainers. I've hired body language experts. I've hired best-selling authors to come in and talk to my sales team. None of them know the stuff that you are talking about on your show. None of them have been able to get as granular and as actionable as you are getting in the realm of sales or if it was dating, whatever. So I was helping him with his dating life and helping his sales team with their sales stuff and lead generation. And then he's like, yeah, I'll fly you out to California. And I was like, what is going on? Right? Because I was built a real business by mistake, raised my prices. That somehow got more people interested. People were referring other people. And I remember my friend who I lived with at the time, because I'm still a student, he would come home. He worked in a lab. He'd come home and I'd be out back on the hammock, sunburned AF, because I'd been out there for like 6 hours chatting away on Skype, dead battery on the phone, like phone plugged in from an extension cord in the house, you know, like talking on the headphones or whatever on my iPhone 3G or whatever you know was out at the time. And he's just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, dude, we made $600 today. And I've just been out here getting roasted, you know, in the sun. And he's like, $600? That was more money, incoming money. Books were expensive, but that was more incoming money that we had seen in a while. I remember when my books were $800 for a semester, I was like, this is insanity. And now I was like a drug dealer or something. I was like killing it. And it was all PayPal cash. So I was like, we can spend this on whatever we want. You know, so that was when I realized we had a real business. And when I started talking about the coaching that I was doing on what then was the show, somebody wrote me and goes, here's the thing. I love your coaching on the phone, but I just can't really get it, you know? And I'm like, oh, you know, do you want to discontinue coaching? And he goes, no, I want to come and stay with you for like a month. And I was like, ugh. But I knew him and he was okay. So I was like, yeah, okay, maybe you can. Maybe you can come and stay with us. So he came and stayed with us for like 2 or 3 weeks. And he gave us, I think at the time, like 10 grand. And I was like, this is awesome. And then I mentioned that on the show, and people were like, I didn't know we could just come live with you for $10,000 or $5,000 or whatever it was, like $5,000 a week, I think is what we were charging. And I go, yeah, that's a new thing we have, I guess.
Wait, so what kind of house do you have at this point in time?
So at the point at which that had started, I had just moved to New York City to work on Wall Street. So I had rented a dope apartment that had one bedroom and one giant living room that was like 1,000 square feet. So we had, this is a very New York thing, but you have pressure walls, which are like drywall that's not nailed in. We had those put in, and we had like different rooms, and we had like couches and an air mattress and stuff. Basically, we had all that set up, and we had 4 or 5 guys at a time from all over the world coming and staying with me. I still had to go to work, so I hired another buddy of mine who was an instructor, who became an instructor, to teach these guys some of the curriculum that we had developed. And he developed a more formal curriculum about what to teach these folks. And then he would take them out to bars at night, and he would run them around during the day. And we basically had this like dating school. And then at that point, a lot of other people were all like, there was like this weird, creepy community of like pickup guys running around at the time. Have you heard about this?
No, but I feel like this is literally out of the book of Hitch. I mean,
yeah. So funny enough, the person who wrote the screenplay for Hitch is the guy who I'd hired as an instructor. That's his friend. So Hitch is about the business in part about the business that we had started back then.
Get out of here. Okay, so
Yeah.
go back to this group of guys that are pickup guys.
So
I'm making you talk so much. I'm like, I'm literally
All
slurping
good.
this up with a spoon. Like I'm living
good.
for this trash. I can't even right now.
yeah, it gets juicy, right? So the pickup guys were kind of creepy. Like they were online, and that later became this book called The Game by Neil Strauss, if you remember
I'm
that, or if you heard of it.
I am very familiar.
So Neil's an awesome guy. I love that guy. We've been friends for years and years and years. So I'm not saying he's creepy, but there was a lot of sort of offshoots of this that were like not cool. And nowadays, in today terms, are like 100% like kind of date rapey. Consent is not necessarily a part of it. And we were like, these guys suck. Like, not Neil, but like a lot of the guys that are doing this were like, these guys suck. And this is not like what being a good man is about. So we were teaching, don't lie, work on yourself to deserve what you want, be cool, be transparent, throw people to your buddies if they're not a fit for you, be kind to everyone, be as upstanding and positive as you can. And those were our rules. And the other guys were like, lie about dating strippers and having a Lamborghini. And I'm like, these guys are turds and they're not getting quality people, because as soon as people find out they're full of it, they're gone.
Yeah.
And we were like, I was like, don't even make friends, or sorry, don't even go after women tonight in the bars. Just make friends with the guys. If there's women around, cool, make friends with them too. But don't getting phone numbers, none of that. Just talk to the guys. And they would be like, what the hell? I'm paying you $5,000 to talk to dudes. I'm like, trust me. So they would go and they'd make friends with the door guy and the bartender and the bussers and the servers. And then we'd go back in like 3 days later and everyone's like, oh, he's cool. And then we're like, okay, now free for all. So they're like, oh, I get it. If you are cool to everyone else, you build this little universe in which you are friends with everybody. It builds your social status. People are willing to do you favors. You don't have to wait in line. People are buying you drinks. That is how you raise your social status. You don't lie about having a frickin' Lambo. Like, that's not real. What's real is building relationships. And that's funny because that's the networking stuff that I'm teaching now and that I started teaching before the dating stuff. And I was just like, let's just apply this to dating and relationships, because that's all anybody cared about when I was 27. I'm 40 now. So that's putting a timestamp on this. So like 14, 13 years ago when we were doing the dating stuff, it was networking skills applied to dating and relationships. And we turned that company into a beast. We made millions and millions of dollars teaching dating and relationships. Then I met my wife, got married, lost interest, ended up getting clients in the military, special forces, Silicon Valley for the networking stuff and the social skills. And now I just do the Jordan Harbinger show. I still teach the networking to military, special forces, and Silicon Valley companies. But it's a far cry from having 8 dudes sleeping on couches and airbeds in my 1-bedroom apartment in Manhattan. I'll tell you that.
Oh, okay. So this is like the perfect way to merge how we started the conversation, which was about communication. And this is about like being a person who cared enough to respond to something as simple and complex as an email. And then we went in and we started talking about how people should just care human to human, what that looks like.
Mhm.
And then when we talked about the tornado technique, it was about effectively communicating in the most simplest terms who you are and or what you're looking for. And then we get back down into understanding your origin story, which is going back to the beginning, be a nice human being. And so what you had said, you drew 2 distinctions between the Lamborghini, let's lie outright, and then to, hey, make friends with the doorman. And I feel like that parallels very closely to what's happening on social. From my perspective, we have the people who are like living that Instagram life, and then the people who, really care about cultivating a small audience. I speak to those. I only endorse those business owners who care about the single person, the one person on the other end of the screen without posturing in a certain life. How then would you tell somebody to give them the strength, the courage, the being okay with oneself to care less about the thousands and care on the one-on-one? What then would you tell somebody? Somebody comes to you and is like, Jordan, I only have 300 followers. I'm trying to get my business off the ground. What can I do now to leverage some of your techniques?
So this is tough because it is really, first of all, there's tons of marketing from all these like fake coaches online, as I'm sure you've come across a million of these, where they're like, get your first 50,000 follower.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
what do you mean for this? That's a lifetime of work for most people to get that many followers. And you think they're trying, one thing that took me years to realize, marketing is designed to make you feel FOMO, like you're missing out, make you feel bad, make you feel like you're not enough. Once you realize that marketing is designed to do that to you, then when you look at marketing and it does that, you realize that it's supposed to make you feel bad so that you buy that thing, right? That's how it works. So for me, I never were, in the beginning, there were no influencers in 2006, 2007. Well, they were celebrities on TV, but there weren't internet influencers. Facebook didn't exist in the form that it does now. It was for people who went to Harvard, Michigan, and Yale to like look at their classmates. You had to be invited, right? MySpace was still around, and there weren't really even influencers on MySpace. Like you had to go to someone's page. There weren't feeds, right? So it was a totally different game. So what I started doing was talking to the people that were listening to the show. Everyone could email me. I think Twitter existed back then, but I can't remember. Everyone could hit me up through email generally, and I would respond. And I remember reaching out to bloggers, which maybe isn't even much of a thing anymore, and being like, can you link to my podcast? And they're like, cool. Can you link to my blog? And I'm like, yep. So there was reciprocal value there. And I reached out to everyone, and anybody who had written to me, I would write them an email reply. And even now, if someone tweets at me, I reply. If someone DMs me on Instagram, I reply. If somebody emails me, I reply. LinkedIn inbox, I reply. And I'll talk to folks and they go, like other people online, and they go, oh, you got to stop wasting your time with that. And I'm like, this is not a waste of time. Because if you are following me and you're following podcaster number 2, and you write to both of us with a problem or a question, and I respond to you and the other person just deletes it because you're not trying to buy something from them, or they respond with, buy my course and I'll show you how, and I respond with, hey, here's a decently thought out response, even if it's only a paragraph or a couple sentences, who has a lifelong fan now? Not Mr. Enter your credit card number, right? That person is in, you can tell already who cares for you. So if somebody cares, which in caring is hard to scale, that's why I don't talk to 650,000 people at once on Instagram. You know, it's hard to scale that over. It only happens over time. You have to really engage with people one-on-one in that way. But that's what builds lifelong fans. There are people now that I'll talk to and I'll go, hey, have we spoken before? And they'll go, yeah, actually you wrote me back, but it was like 5 years ago. And I go, wow, you've been listening for 5 years? And they're like, every single episode, I share the show with everyone that I can. I'll never forget how when I lost my job, you told me this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh, cool. I would imagine they didn't just reach out to me. They probably reached out to a bunch of people, never heard anything back because they were not considered a qualified lead or whatever. And it doesn't take that long to build those followers. Now, also, I look at it like this. I run a lot of advertising on other podcasts for the Jordan Harbinger show. People hear ads everywhere. They come in and I do my conversion metrics and I'm like, wow, okay, this new listener was $6. These new listeners were $2.25. Let's say I respond to 25 people in 30 minutes, which is not impossible. 20 people in 30 minutes if I'm really cranking through emails. Okay, if each one of those people becomes a more of an advocate for the Jordan Harbinger show, shares it with people, doesn't stop listening, imagine each of those people was worth, let's say on average, $3 to $4. I just earned that much money by sitting down and answering my email, answering my Instagram DMs, answering my LinkedIn. That's money I don't have to spend in theory because they're going to get me new listeners. They're not going to stop listening, etc. It's not a guarantee, but I look at it like that. Especially if in some high ticket items, like, look, you might be paying $5 for a lead on something. So if I answer 20 emails in half an hour, I just earned $100 from my phone while waiting for an airplane to board or whatever, right? People don't think about it like that. They're sitting around, they're like, ugh, I don't want to get to that. I don't want to waste my time with that. Or they hire a virtual assistant or something to do it, and it's really disingenuous. You're losing those people, right? If you ignore them, you lose them. If you engage with them in a way that's disingenuous, you lose them. If you're trying to put a freaking chatbot on them, you lose them when they figure that out. They feel duped. If you engage with them and you build trust, now they're like, Jordan's the only real guy in podcasting or whatever like cool thing they want to say. That means that's huge. You can't really buy that. You can't get an ad that makes them feel that way. So that's the kind of relationship that I want to have with my listeners of the Jordan Harbinger show. There are people that write me that have been listening for literally like 10 years. I don't know anybody that's listened to, I don't know any podcast I've listened to for 10 years, right? So that's an important relationship. And when I offer something that's expensive or daring or unusual, those people sign up and they pay for that because they know I'm not going to screw them over. I'm not selling them a bill of goods. I'm selling them something that I believe in, and they already believe in me because I believed in them 5 years ago in a freaking email. It doesn't cost you much. It's super rewarding, and those are real relationships. So if you have 300 followers, engage those people, right? Talk to them. Don't just try and get 900 so that you have a vanity metric. I get it. You want to have more followers. It looks good and it makes you feel good, but it doesn't really do anything for your business. It just doesn't.
Oh, okay. So this right here is the intersection of understanding the one-to-one connection. And I would like to suggest to somebody who's listening and they're saying like right now, but yes, but what do I do now? What if you were to blend what Jordan had mentioned about going to the bottom of your text messages and just reaching out to somebody? You could do that in your Instagram DMs. You have 300 followers, randomly pick 5 and just say, I really appreciate, and then see if you can come up with their name. Hey, Jordan, I really appreciate you following me here. I look forward to connecting. Let me know if there's anything you want to hear in the podcast. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Just want to drop a note. That kind of stuff cultivates not just fans, but lifelong fanatics. And that right there is the business principle. By having this conversation with Jordan, we walked away with number one, the framework being to care about other people. Number two, a framework of how to effectively communicate what your business does. And then 3, to come back and really care about the small audience. The small audience will ultimately lead you to the big audience, even though the big audience doesn't necessarily mean you're making more money. You want people who are going to boldly and blindly invest in your business as a result of you showing up for them. Jordan, you are amazing. People who want to know more and go deeper. And now this is again the formal plug. Let's go back and formally plug for the second
Mhm.
time around the 6-minute networking. And how
Sure.
can people find you on social?
Sure. I'm at Jordan Harbinger on Twitter and on Instagram. And you can always email me, jordan@jordanharbinger.com. But of course, I would love it if people found the Jordan Harbinger show in Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts.
6 million downloads a week.
It's actually 7.5 million now. I just
But
didn't want
who's
to be.
counting?
Who's counting?
Who's
You know who's
counting?
counting? This guy right here. I look at it every damn day. I look at it every day.
You, man. Good for you. Thank you. Thank you with how busy you are and all the stuff that you're doing that you give so generously to this audience. I look forward to people supporting you and listening to your awesomeness in depth and in breadth. Congratulations on growing your family. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your brilliance. Does not go unnoticed, y'all. Give this man a shout out on social media. I appreciate it, Jordan. You're amazing.
Thank you so much.